name is Janet Russell. I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I was raised with a military father and a Korean mother. So we lived around different countries, but mostly in North Carolina, and currently living in Korea now. My father is actually from Belize, and my mother is from Jeonju. I guess they met when my father was stationed here back in the early 80s, and then they moved to America together. I was actually born in Germany, so going to school was really difficult for me and my brothers. So my mom at the time, she was learning English and she would go to night school. So my parents decided English should be the primary language. I lived there maybe for a little bit, and then we'd go back and forth from there to America. So I lived in South Carolina for a little bit, and then I remember living in Germany until I was maybe 8 or 9. Even the Netherlands, my aunt lived there, so we lived there for about a year. I believe we moved to Fayetteville maybe around 1993, 1994, around that time. And then from there, my mom, she didn't want to move anymore. She got tired of packing. So she told my dad, this is where we're going to stay. And he said, okay. At that time, my mom, she worked for a lot of mess halls on base. So her English was really, really good, but it was more like slang English. So she was able to communicate more and she was able to understand things that were going on. But when it came to school life, she didn't really understand how to communicate with the teachers. So if somebody got in trouble in our house, my dad always had to communicate with the teachers. I would say my mom was the main person that we went to, just because my dad was still active duty at that time. So sometimes he'd have to go away on what they call TDY. So he'd go missing for like a few days and then come back. So my mom was the main person that we had to talk to. Even though my dad married somebody from Korea, he never actually grasped the culture. He never learned how to speak Korean. He never learned anything about Korea. He just knows maybe 2 Korean dishes that my mom would cook him. That's about it. I was never actually curious where I was from. I always thought I was just from Germany, and my brother would educate me the most. I think growing up, my parents didn't tell us a lot about our family history. Even I remember when I was little, I had to do a family tree. And it was really difficult for me to do this family tree. Even I gave up doing it because I would ask my mom, well, the family tree has our mom's side and our dad's side, but your side is empty. What do I put on this side? And she couldn't figure out how to do it. And on my dad's side, I've always known my grandmother from my dad's side. So he would say, oh, well, you have this many aunts and you have this many uncles. His family was much bigger. So his side is filled, but my mom's side is empty. So when I was little, I would get frustrated trying to figure out the culture and everything. I think from an early age, I questioned my ethnicity a lot because I was the lighter child in my family. So my brothers were darker than me, so I always questioned, oh, why am I lighter than everybody? Why is my color different? And even if I told my family, oh, I'm brown, they would say, no, you're black. We call you black. And I say, but I don't look like the color black. And a lot of times when I grew up in Germany, when we would go on field trips, my mom, she was able to come as a chaperone. And everybody always thought she was my nanny or a helper that we hired because she never looked like me. So even growing up then, a lot of my friends, they questioned who she was because she always came on field trips with me. There weren't many friends that I had who were Korean, either half Korean or full Korean. The only ones I knew were my brothers. Even our family members, we only knew the black side, not the Korean side. So we always considered ourselves black because when we have to pick what nationality you are on the paper, there was no other choice. And growing up, I was told I have to follow what my father is. So I always checked the black box. I think my oldest brother tried to educate me more about it because he went to school first. And so he got a lot of probably the students asking him questions and things like that. But for me, it was either watching movies or watching TV to see different people. But I always felt like nobody looked like me. When I went to high school, that's when I found some students who were half Black and half Korean. So that's when I started to say, oh, there are people who are similar to me. Honestly, when I met other half Black, half Korean students at school, it made me feel good. I felt like I was able to build bonds with them a lot faster because they could kind of understand the life that I lived. I actually stayed local for my university. I went to Fayetteville State University, which is a HBCU. I studied business, mostly MIS, and I thought I would do something with computers, but I ended up getting jobs around banking and finance and accounting. And then that was fun for me, but after a while I felt like I was just living a dull, mundane type life. And I thought, oh, what else is there out there? I don't travel a lot, I don't go anywhere, I don't really know anything about my culture. So one of my college friends said to me, oh, I heard you can go to Korea and teach, and they'll give you everything you need. They'll buy your plane ticket. They'll get you a house. She was like, oh, we can do the buddy system. Let's go together. So I thought, I don't know. Like, my mom doesn't talk a lot about Korea. I don't know much about Korea anymore. I haven't met anybody in my family from Korea, so I didn't know if that would be a good match for me. I'm working 2 jobs. I feel like if I were to leave my parents' house, I'd be living paycheck to paycheck, which wasn't something I wanted to do. So from there, I asked my friend, oh, what is the next step to go to Korea? And of course, my dad was like, no, you shouldn't do this. You can't eat the food there. Don't eat the rice. They grow in dung patties. And he said a whole bunch of things to try and keep me living there. But I told him, I said, I can't keep living the life that you want. I need to figure out what I want. I first came to Korea in May of 2010. It was my first time ever leaving the country by myself. So it was a big step for me. Most of the people who automatically think I'm either mixed or half Korean, they're usually from other countries, not from Korea. So if I meet somebody who's lived in Canada or lived in America, they'll often say, oh, I thought you were mixed with something Asian, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. But if I say it to somebody who lives in Korea, they'll just, oh, really? Oh, okay. I've had some good interactions and some bad interactions with locals here in Korea. I would say when I lived in a smaller city, the interactions were usually really good. If I say something like, hi, or how much is this? Everybody's curious, like, oh, how do you speak Korean so well? Oh, how do you know this? How long have you lived here? It kind of opens up a box to where they want to talk to you more and engage with you more. I actually made a lot of local friends with older people usually who want to talk to me or do things with me when I first arrived here. And some of the bad interactions I've had are usually with the taxi cab drivers because I look more Thai or Filipino. So I've had questions from, oh, are you married to an older man? Did they get you from the internet? I've had many questions like that where I've even had a taxi cab driver unplug his camera to talk to me more privately. So I've had interesting conversations here. I think my parents are okay with me living here. My mom especially, she's very free spirit. She's not like the tiger moms that you hear about where they make you study all day and do all of these things. My mom actually never bothered me with whatever I wanted to do. Half the time, she never knew what I wanted to do, so I would just surprise her. But my dad, on the other hand, he actually doesn't like me living here. Even though he doesn't openly say it, he'll tell my brothers something and they'll kind of let me know oh, dad said this about you and I think he misses you. He's very military style, so cold on the outside. So he can't actually tell you what he wants to tell you. I think living out here in Korea, I tend to speak more Korean to my mom now. She does feel more comfortable speaking to me in Korean now. When I first moved here, I kept pushing my mom to come visit me. Oh, why won't you come visit me? Come visit. We'll look for your family, because I know deep down she was curious where her family members were. She hadn't spoken to them in maybe over 30 years. I've never seen a letter, never saw a phone number or anything, so I knew she was curious. I feel like because they never contacted us, I always felt like they weren't that interested in knowing us. For most of us, not all of us who are half Black, half Korean, but sometimes we feel a little rejected because of the Black side. I feel like it's a little different from half white, half Koreans, from half Black, half Koreans, because our skin color is a little bit different, a little on the darker shade. We get more rejected. So maybe in 2012, I actually told her, if you don't come and visit me, I'll never go back home and see you again. So I bought her half a ticket and my dad bought the other half of the ticket, and she came, and she kind of just she would eat, sleep, and just do the same thing every day, which is not what she's used to. So one day I said, why don't you go find your family? Where is your hometown? Why don't you go there? I'll buy you a bus ticket. And I was at work that day, so I guess she actually did it, and she went out. She's from Jeonju, so she actually bought a bus ticket, went to Jeonju, and she would call me and she'd say, they're not there. And I said, oh, well, maybe there's another way we can find them. So I guess she went to where she used to live, the area where she used to live, and I don't know if it's a big town or a small town, but somebody actually asked her, who are you looking for? And that person took her to the police station, and the person at the police station actually knew my uncle. And from there, that police officer drove her to Seoul, where my uncle was now living. And so she was actually able to meet her oldest brother. I've never actually seen my mom cry as much as she cried. So when she came, she kind of was, in her feelings like, oh, I have a brother. I'm going to go meet him. So whenever you have a day off, you'll have to come. And she went and she met them first. So I found out I had an uncle and he was married, and I have a cousin. And I actually had a second cousin from her younger brother, but she found out later that her younger brother had passed away in an accident, and also my grandmother. So I got to meet my oldest uncle, my two cousins, and my grandmother. It was really weird to meet all of these relatives that I never knew about. First thing was, I didn't speak as fluent Korean as everybody else. So even the things that I wanted to say to them, it was really hard to express my feelings. And my mom would either have to translate, or I had to study what I wanted to say beforehand. But it was actually a good feeling to know that I had family on the other side of the world, and they were near me now, so I could see them whenever I wanted. It was an eye-opener for her coming the first time, even though she didn't want to come. Later, she told me the reason why she didn't want to come was she was afraid that none of them would be around. So even her finding out about her father and her younger brother, as much as it hurt her, it was good for her to know. I feel like for my mom, there was a lot of past history of negative feelings, maybe hurt, and a lot of stuff she didn't want to dig up. I know from after meeting my grandmother, she actually didn't feel good about my mom marrying my dad. She said he was very different. She didn't know how to communicate with him. So she just couldn't agree with it. But even after her seeing me, I think once time went by, I think her feeling was a little bit better years later. I would say embrace your race. I think when we're younger, we can't understand what that means, but I think they need more education on that. I feel like today's youth will have more education than those of us from like the early 80s, we didn't get that. So I hope that today's youth will understand that your skin and what you're mixed with is beautiful. Never let somebody judge you or look down on you because of that. My name is Janet Russell, and this is my Korean American story.